adopted in 2008 left more jobs, less pollution, and lower utility bills. Then the legislature instituted a clean energy freeze in 2014, and now we've got utility companies asking for rate hikes to prop up old coal and nuclear plants. Governor Kasich, what are you planning on doing to move our state and our country forward toward a clean energy future?
Well, you know, I'm the one Republican that said we do have a problem with climate change. And it's made a lot of people happy when I've said that. But the fact is that I don't know what impact humans are having, but I know we're having some. Now, this has been a battle, and Dave Hall will tell you, I have had a dust-up and a skirmish with the legislature. And young lady, let me explain to you what happened. The politicians set a goal that is unachievable. This man will pay higher utility costs and could face the fact that he has to lay people off because the goal cannot be achieved. How do they come up with the goal? They just take it out of a hat. Sounds good. So what I told the business community and the legislature is, let's reset the goal to fit our economy, because if you can't achieve the goal, you have to go out of state and buy power that costs more, which drives up the costs of the people who are involved in manufacturing. So I told and this was a skirmish because the legislature just wanted to kind of walk away from these standards. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. We'll reset the standards. And they are now working to come back with a standard that will fit Ohio's economy. Because what I don't think we have to do is to choose between a clean environment and put a bunch of people out of work. We can have a clean environment and keep people working if we do it the right way. We're smart. So where are we headed in Ohio? Where should we head in the country? We need to develop these renewables. Solar power is really important to us. Wind power is very important. I have a plan to place a wind turbine in front of every legislative capital in America to generate a heck of a lot more power from wind. I believe in efficiency standards, and that's a tough one. Gorman is always worried about energy efficiency because the more efficient he is, the more money he saves, but we can't pound him over the head and have him try to achieve something he can't possibly do. The real exciting future is in battery technology, because battery technology allows us to store power when the sun doesn't shine with solar and the wind doesn't blow with wind. We need geothermal. When we reduced emissions in Ohio by 30% over the last 10 years. We're making a lot of progress, and we will reset it at a level that will be reasonable. Now, I told the legislature, here's what I told them. Ohio is going to be part of the national effort, and we're going to do our part to make sure we have a clean environment in a reasonable direction in a reasonable way. And that's what we're going to get, because want to know something? If they come back and they come up with some goofy plan, we'll just go back to the 25% that's not achievable, because I got leverage now. And I love these folks. And we got to make sure we come up with something reasonable, and I think we will come up with something reasonable, because the environment is important to us. So is the lake. This was another battle we had. I did not want the farmers to put manure on frozen ground. I said we have to stop it, because what it does is that the runoff gets into the lake and creates algae blooms. And then we have problems with the lake. We spent $1 billion cleaning up Lake Erie. We got a long way to go, but part of our problem is the sins of the past. I tell you, if you smoke cigarettes and you quit, your lungs will clear. 25 years. And the fact is that we're paying for some of the sins of that lake, but I want you to understand that I believe we ought to recognize this. We ought to have all sources, by the way, nuclear power. We ought to have natural gas, which we have some in Ohio. If we're going to dig coal, we're going to have to clean it before we burn it, and we are. And I think these are the approaches that we ought to take. Let me say one other final thing. We all worry about manufacturing. Since I've been governor, we are up over 60,000 manufacturing jobs in the state of Ohio. Over 60,000, which is unbelievable, okay? Now, we want low-priced energy, because if you want to have people bringing businesses back to our country, manufacturing back to our country, we have access to the North American market. And we have low energy prices, and I'll tell you what that, Jeff, what does low energy prices mean to you?
More jobs.
No, just tell me.
More jobs?
Does it? I mean, you feel like you're asking me a question.
No, it helps us be more efficient, more competitive on a worldwide basis.
And so we have to think about all these things, and we think about them in terms of our kids, but at the same time, we don't want to leave these kids in an environment that we weren't sensitive about, because you can't grow it back. We're here to manage it, not worship it, but to manage it and make sure, and we're making progress in this state on making it cleaner, and as president, of course I'm committed to all this, and I can't wait till we get battery technology. I'll tell you a couple other things I can't wait. Till we get the self-driving car. And you know, we're going to have, they're now starting to talk about a flying car. And I think it's, you know, they say it's going to happen. I always knew it would because, you know, I knew it when I watched Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I knew we'd have a flying car, girls. I want to tell you one other thing, if I can see. Let me see here. How is it nobody is, this is unbelievable. Sorry, I'm going to be with you in 1 second. Wait a minute. I have never been in a place where there are fewer, give me that, lady. Let me have that, please. Please. Okay, no, that right there in your hands. Yes, this is what I have never been in a place where I've seen fewer smartphones. God bless you. You're just listening. So here's the thing. When my daughters were like 10 or 11, we were down in Florida. And they asked me, they said, Daddy, what is that box over there? And I'm like, what? Oh, I said, that's where Superman changes his clothes. And I said, and your mom and I used to put coins in there to make phone calls. And they were like, no way, no way. Think about this. Communication, transportation, medicine, life expectancy, Google, amazing, a library right in here. You see, in business, if you don't change, if you don't innovate, you die. If Gorman doesn't do the research and the development and innovate, he dies. You know what happens in government, sir? In government, when the government doesn't innovate or change things, we get more debt. See, we need to Uberize government at all levels. We need to decentralize it, we need to be innovative, and we need to be creative. And that's the program we're going to follow, and I want to thank you. I get more smartphones this time. Thank you. No, I'm okay, but thanks for the water too. Wow, you're getting everything. Well, you're a lot more helpful than your brother is. Thank you very much. Yes, sir, right here. What are we going to do about getting out of the corrupt UN? Well, we're not going to leave the United Nations. I mean, because we got to be there to talk. I mean, it doesn't seem like we get a heck of a lot of accomplished there, although the United Nations just put sanctions on North Korea. But I don't look at the UN as the big problem solver. The problem solver is U.S. relations with our allies. They're in Europe. We have good relations with South Korea, with Japan. We're building better relations in all over Asia, even Vietnam. Am I right, Colonel? It's just amazing. It's critical. Indonesia, Singapore, these are important things. And, sir, we have to have good relations with the Muslim Arab countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the Gulf states. This is the civilized world we're talking about. Do you all understand who ISIS is? I mean, they want to destroy us. I mean, there's like no deal. We'll give you 3 cities and everything will be okay. They want to destroy our way of life. And if you are a woman, you are an object. You are to be used, not to be treated with, well, it's just unbelievable. And if you don't follow them, I mean, we know about all the atrocities they commit. So how do we deal with that, by the way? Well, we need to take our Arab friends, along with our friends in Europe and our allies around the world, and we're going to have to go in the air and on the ground and destroy ISIS And once we destroy them and things settle down, we come home and let them handle their problems over there. But we are not policing the world. There's a chance that by talking to somebody at the UN and we can avoid a conflict, it's worth doing. But I'm not investing all my hope in, well, the United Nations will take care of this. The problem with America is we haven't been active. I said the other night in the debate, it seems as though we are kinder to our enemies than we are to our friends. And that is not the way to run American foreign policy. You can't do that. And when I'm president, we aren't going to do it anymore. I can promise you, sir. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go to him.
Got a young man right here.
Where is it? Where?
Right
Right here?
Yeah.
Where? The man in the purple. Where's the man in the purple? Oh, right here. Okay. Boy, you got my daughters lobbying for you? That's impressive. Okay, go ahead, sir.
As a former law enforcement officer, in light of recent events at one of your opponent's rallies yesterday, one of the pictures that struck me was some police officers bloodied and battered. When you become president, how are you going to, what's the message of your Justice Department handling some of the fringe and radical groups? Even if they have good intentions, some of their actions, and what's your message for law enforcement? Because nowadays I think it's more dangerous, they're more disrespected probably than ever. And I've been in it since '96. So.
Well, look, I think in some quarters things are not good, but I have to tell you, I think people just have such great respect for police, for law enforcement. I mean, I can't think, you know, between firemen and policemen. Am I right, folks? I mean, we love law enforcement. Now, you're aware of the fact that up in Cleveland, there was a police chase of a car. 2 people in the car. They pulled it over, they surrounded the car, and they shot 147 times into the car. And one officer jumped up on the hood of the car and shot multiple times into the car. Now, you know, when you're a police officer, it's a complicated thing. The grand jury looked at it and said they thought there was a reason for that. But it could have exploded on us. It could have. So I created a collaborative, police and community. I got to tell you, the community has to understand that your family wants you to come home at night and that you have a dangerous job. I was just with a trooper driving up here, and well, earlier today, and I said to a woman, I said, whenever you stop somebody on the highway, did you ever worry that they'd have a gun? And she said, the answer is yes. Of course I worried about it, but I had a job to do. The community has to understand the problems that police have. At the same time, the police have to understand that there are people in the community who feel as though the system not only does not work for them, but it works against them. So what have we done? We've taken community people, we've taken law enforcement, we have a chairman, or two co-chair people. One is a Democrat. She's an African-American woman whose son happens to be a police officer. And we have the former head of the Highway Patrol who runs public safety in Ohio. And they have sat down with a big group, and about 2 days into the Baltimore violence, they came out with a series of recommendations that were unanimously adopted because the communication was there. And what did it result in? A statewide use of deadly force so that everybody's clear about what that means. And secondly, to be able to look at the hiring and recruiting practices so that the force will look more like the community. And then we had another very tough court case. But we didn't have any violence. Tamir Rice up in Cleveland. Sir, I believe that the president should have done this. What I've tried to do is to say everybody has to understand everybody else's situation. You agree with that? Everybody has to understand it. And we haven't heard, I don't think, that out of the president. And so as president, you can't ignore these divisions. You can't ignore these problems. You can't ignore anything. You really have to focus. And I think Look, it's like anything else. When you get people in a room and you talk to them, it's amazing how they'll solve problems. I'll give you another one that I don't understand. So the intelligence community wants to look at the phone of the guy from San Bernardino. Now there's a big battle going on with Apple and the government. It's on the front page of the paper. We're in court over it. Let me tell you what I do. Oh, I've done it in Ohio, and let me tell you what I do as president. I'd have 2 sets of locks. I would get the technologists and the intelligence community in a room. I would lock the outside and I would lock the inside, and I would say, you're not coming out of here until you give me an answer and a solution to this problem. Because we all have to give a little bit here. Okay? So, I just want you to know that that's an approach I'll take. But let me tell you something. You pound on the law enforcement officers and you disrespect them, and you don't ever get a good result for having done that. And I think we've struck the right balance in our state, and I am hopeful that we're going to continue to make progress. It's in simple things, like riding together in the car. It's simple things, like being in a place in the community where you have dinner and people get to know one another. That's what you need. Let's face it, this country needs to come together. We need to be hopeful again. I have to leave. I'm going to do, I got to go. I mean, I don't know where I'm going, but they're yelling at me that I have to go. Here's what I want to tell you all. When it comes to Tuesday, the country's watching what's happening here in Ohio. The world is watching what is happening in Ohio. I want you to get out and vote for me and give me a chance to be President of the United States. And I want you also to think about it from 2 different points of view. One is the job that has happened here in Ohio, because I'd like to take that and help the entire rest of the country. And secondly, though, I'd like you to reward a campaign that has been unwaveringly positive, because I wanted to set an example and a role model for our kids and the rest of the country as to what we can do to have a proper election for the highest office in the land, for the commander-in-chief and the leader of the free world. I'd love to have your vote, and I hope that you do it on Tuesday.